Hello, everybody. Anybody there? Oh boy, we got some stream lag going on. Hey, what up? Unfortunately, I think there's some stream lag. Yep. This is my first time actually doing any kind of stream, so I wanted to make sure that I did a test run today before doing any of this on Tuesday when there's going to be people relying on it. You told me your real name at some point. I mean, how can I mistake you for anybody else with a opening message like A? Let me check and make sure it's doing okay. Check the mic. Okay, that seems to be working. So how is the voice quality going on? Can you hear me okay, or am I getting lag, or is it making weird noises? Ah, boy. That's not good. Okay. Alright, at least there's that. At least I'll be able to make a video out of this. Just in case something goes wrong. I only see 2 people watching the stream, so I'm not sure if I should wait a few more minutes just in case anybody comes in. It's not really like it is too important that there's a lot of people here, but just in case. I wonder what's causing the stream to be so low quality, though. I need to fix that before Tuesday. Huh. That's a good thing to balance this with. Alright, well, 5 minutes. elapsed, and I don't see anybody else besides what I assume is you and me in the stream. So, should I just get started, or? Alrighty. So I'm gonna start with Redla's entry. I'm gonna make sure that all this formatting is doing okay. I'm going to go over this. I'm gonna look over the video and see if it's matched up with my voice, or if the stream's recording is off entirely. We'll see what happens. But anyway, this is the first. This is Redla Sunshower 029's entry. An overview. Dragonsmaw Manor is an independent village state sharing southern borders with Ocean Dome and northern borders with Old Boxberry. It represents a significant chunk of land with a... I'm sorry, I'm very bad with numbers. Kilometers length. The tallest building in the manor stands around 30 kilometers and has an area of 90,000 square kilometers. The land is overall infertile unless a villager looks to plant in the right place. The village is heavily populated, with over 84,000 inhabitants and counting in the 2018 census. It bears a distinct geographical location and unique culture, which lures in any travelers and researchers brave enough to venture into the spooky place. Dragonsmaw consists of a diverse population of canines, avians, bats, and the distinct race of wicker beasts, among others non-native species. English is the main language of Dragonsmaw. The residents are often multilingual and can learn other languages at impressive lengths of only a couple days. Dragonsmaw is known for its annual Halloween celebration, mutated habitat, unusual customs, and their own species, the Wickerbeast. Etymology and history. It is unknown the exact date this land was created, although many know of the notorious circumstances that brought the hallowed village state into being. Dragonsmaw was formed by just as unnatural a history as it seems. Early members of the land, known at that time as the Crimson Manor, prided in their hold of the supernatural control. Much of their early economic production went into forming special staffs and brewing cauldrons full of potions, and members of the icy regions in and around Tiger Eye Peak saw the opportunity to learn from the aspiring mages. The Crimson Manor hosted many of these individuals and taught dozens of types to all who wished to discover the power within. Adventurous mages would discover new ways to mix concoctions, advancing their skills by the day. Although as magic developed, so did the extent of its use. Eventually, many would work outside of their comfort zones, coming up with new potions and poultices simply off of instinct and inspiration. Thus, a new craze spread, and as regulations of magic became looser and looser, some of the formerly benevolent members began to gain some unexpected side effects from their brews. At the same time, dragons began to venture to the Dragonsmaw more frequently, drawn to the area for its newly discovered riches and affinity for magic. Many of these creatures spanned hundreds of feet long, and bore all variations of scales, backgrounds, and innate powers. Young magicians, swept up by the craze for magic and the greed for recognition, decided to take what they could by force. During one night the dragons rested, a band of new magicians advanced upon arresting Drake. While the dragon was in the end unharmed, the thieves absconded with several scales, treasure, and priceless artifacts bearing substantial amounts of natural power. Furious, the creature awoke in a rage, scouring the land for the source of the crime. When finding none, the dragon gathered up the remaining magic, cladding the land, and mutated energy as a foul reminder of the wrongdoings that had befallen them in the Crimson Manor. The land fell into chaos thereafter. Magicians who used the powers of the dragon survived with heavy mutations, unable to be recognized as their original selves. Magic became forbidden for years following, with rogues and illegal brewers punished through mutation or subjected to lycanthropy. The widespread fear of these methods resulted in the majority of unaffected villagers fleeing, leaving all but the monstrosities and haunted souls in the barren landscape, with other entities far and few between. Since the catastrophic events that led to the Crimson Manor's downfall, Mayor Chester has decided to get things under control and encourage the affected descendants of Dragonsmaw to hold their heads up with pride. However, the dark past of this village state will never be truly forgotten. The foreign relations. Despite first impressions, Dragonsmaw does not have much conflict among other village states. While they have sustained past grievances with Ocean Dome, the present boasts no less than a peaceful economic future. Dragonsmaw also maintains a comfortable connection to Tiger Eye Peak, despite the past, and still does frequent business with them. There's not much to be said about the connection between Dragonsmaw and Old Foxbury. It is believed that many Dragonsmaw residents envy the other village's positive connection to other dragons, although there is not enough evidence to confirm or deny such speculations. The only challenge faced with regards to foreign relations is the manor's fragile peace with Quetzal Palace, governed by Mayor Anna. The Ariel village state is known for its nationalism and its emphasis on militancy. Tension is suspected between the political leaders of both village states at the very least, and it is hard to say where that will lead them. Armed forces. Dragonsmaw is the third least militant, with an army standing at about 8,000 active warriors. They rely heavily on intimidation as opposed to actual military combat through the use of lycanthropes, tethered monsters, and the overall appearance of their cursed terrain. When combat is necessary, villagers still resort to supernatural means, such as shapeshifting, recently reintroduced cauldron magic, and enchanted weapons. All forms of related magic are reserved specifically for combat. Dragonsmaw Manor deviates in appearance from anything natural. The name of Dragonsmaw comes from its resemblance to a dragon's mouth, shown in the long, winding roads adorned with inward curved teeth. The moon remains a blood moon year-round, shrouded in the darkness of clouds. The occasional bear skeleton litters the ground in more remote locations. The sprawling manor has many different buildings, with each housing a different town. Villagers are often grouped into different living quarters based on their main occupation, with all barracks connected to the main trading center. The Acid Shoreline. One of the underrated beauties in Dragonsmaw is its acid shoreline, which separates it from Ocean Dome. Despite its reputation of a barrier of rot and decay, the actual landscape is actually quite lovely. It is also the heart of scientific discovery, where alchemists and mages alike set up their services and explore the magic within Dragonsmaw Manor's core. It is also useful to historians for artifact-encrusted shoreline. Climate. Dragonsmaw Manor boasts a warm climate, with a touch of an autumnal chill. The usual temperature is around 65 to 70 degrees. Economy. Dragonsmaw Manor boasts as diverse an economy as they do a diverse population of beasts. Within the civilization, villagers gather in the main trade center at the heart of the village state to swap wares. Trade within villages is vital and strongly encouraged, as the village state aspires to be primarily self-sufficient. Popular exports consist of plants, costumes, and the village's own Wickerbeast potions. Wickerbeasts are known for their uniquely vibrant fur colors and tall stature, and thus acquisition of their forms is widely sought out, even outside of Dragonsmaw Manor. Education. Dragonsmaw Manor takes great care to educate their young, as the civilization believes that great minds are the source of great advancements. Children are put into school for 12 years of mandatory education, with subjects varying between the solid subjects like science, math, literature, and history, to more free-flowing courses in creative writing, alchemy, and heavily regulated magic, introduction to fright, and the arts. The Dragonsmaw education system is designed to allow for any individual to take up the field they desire, encourages hobbies, and of course enforces the importance of scare tactics in the tradition of the Cursed Land's reviving culture. Culture. One of the most fascinating aspects of the manor is its culture. It is without a doubt how impressive a barren, cursed land of rogue magicians and questionable alchemists revived itself into such a beloved and feared place as Dragonsmaw. The civilians are all well aware of their past mistakes, and pay their respects for the wrongdoings they may have caused in the past. Despite the past, Dragonsmaw has developed healthy regulations on magic and conduct with supernatural creatures. They are known for their creativity as a society, much like Oceandom, with a particular affinity for costumery. Tailors are highly regarded in Dragon's Maw society, as they are considered the experts of physical expression. Aside from the standard Dragon's Maw costumes, they also craft accessories such as horns, feathers, and pseudo-body horror extensions. A requirement for tailors is comfort with children, and an encouraging voice to follow when younger furries show off their own doodles or patterns. When older, many furs will commission costumes based on their own design or dye their fur in the image of the beasts they long to be. Visual art, writing, dance, music, and storytelling are also vital to the cultivation of Dragon's Maw culture. It is from the manner that the traditional telling of ghost stories originates. However, unlike the almost forbidden and ghastly approach many other villages utilize to tell such tales, every frightening story is a celebration for Dragon's Maw. They are usually bi-weekly renderings of classic tales in the town square told through multiple mediums, be it comics, large-scale paintings, or performances full of music, vibrant lighting, and song. Dragon's Maw shows its citizens that even the darkest stories can fill a civilization with wonder and delight, and the tradition is one of the all-time favorites throughout the. Their diet typically consists of monster meat, mutated plants, and rich, hearty soups. A little-known thing about their culture is the skill of their chefs and their frugal nature in conserving food for when it is scarce. They are very resourceful and learn from their past, taking only what they need to support their population. They will experiment with various other culinary items, although the only forbidden one is dragon meat, even that of fallen dragons. National symbols. Mouth beans are prided as the national flower. Likewise, the smiling Critty is regarded as the national animal. Let me check the chat. Oops. Dragon Ball Manor. So that was the first reading. Yes, Redless Sunshowers. She wrote the first entry here. The one that I just read. And also, I'm sorry that the stream is stuttering. Dragon Ball Manor. Goku, you have to find the 7 Dragon Ball Manors. Alrighty, I'm going to pop back in and start reading again. Is there anything that you guys think I should do? Should I slow down? Should I speed up? What are you thinking? It is Inception. It's even better when I bring up the streaming thing, because it just keeps going in. Also, I'm really sorry that I seem to be replying late to what you say into the chat. As you know already, the stream is lagging like crazy. So anyway, I'm gonna head into the next one now. I also wish to take a boot to the stream's stuttery head. Okay. Gonna head back into it now. And here's Laz's entry. Overview. Dragonsmall Manor is the southernmost village state of Furvilla, bordered by Ocean Dome to the east, Old Foxbury to the north, and an unidentified village to the west. The Hollowed Forest provides a natural border to the south. Its territory is approximately, numbers, 250 kilometers latitudinally and 200 kilometers longitudinally, and across the approximately 60,000 villagers call it home. The compass-skewing nature of the hollowed forest makes it difficult to measure its size from within, but observations made from the sky are regularly documented by avian scientists and conservationists. Native furs of Dragonsmaw include the adaptable wolf, hyena, and bat, as well as the indigenous wildebeest. The official language of modern Dragonsmaw is English, but many residents are also fluent in mooncalling, which is a traditional form of long-distance communication through loud, guttural vocalizations towards the sky. Mooncalling is still practiced by native families and has been passed down through generations. The village state attracts the most tourists during the annual Great Harvest in October, but throughout the year, villagers come from across Furvilla to experience its iconic nightlife, its uniquely hostile ecosystem, and its haunting embrace of all things macabre. Etymology and history. In the oldest surviving records of the first treks into the land, which would eventually be known as Dragonsmaw Manor, early explorers referred to the land as the Dragon's Maw. These records date back only as early as the late 1600s, making it the youngest of all 5 established village states of Furvilla. The first expeditions into Dragonsmaw were led by pioneers and rebels from Old Foxbury who yearned to claim a land of their own away from what at the time was an unforgiving monarchy. Despite the proximity to their homeland, the land had not yet been surveyed by Old Foxbury largely due to rumors of curses, dark magic, and certain doom in the southern territory. As colonists began to journey across the land, observing the bone trees that seemed to claw upwards out of the deep red soil, they likened it to a dragon's maw, and referred to it as such in their journals. Despite the odds, these pioneers successfully navigated the hostile landscape and ventured as far south as the forest. Many explorers lost their lives there due to encounters with monsters or by getting lost due to strangely malfunctioning equipment, and it became known as the Hollowed Forest. Colonists found a suitable stretch of land north of the forest, however, and began to establish a new way of life. Their small colonies, once royalty of Old Foxbury learned of their success, became swept up into a true feudal manor, and the land was renamed Dragonsmaw Manor. Excuse me. Indigenous tribes of Old Foxbury were discovered in several protected regions of Dragonsmaw. Once a form of communication was established, they socialized amicably, with the colonists, and they received each other into their families and budding neighborhoods. The village state's name was shortened colloquially over time to Dragonsmaw Manor and has since then evolved into a democracy with the mayor and their council elected by popular vote. The word manor remains in the village state's name mainly out of habit and for the sake of consistency with historical documents, and all ties of ownership have been severed and absolved between Dragonsmaw and Old Foxbury. Sure, Brain, you can't say amicably, but you can say colloquially. Thanks, Brain. Foreign relations. Dragonsmaw Manor has had a reputation of rebellion, especially due to the nature of its creation. Even the feudal lords from Old Foxbury who took grasp of the first Dragonsmaw colonies terminated the feudal system within their first generations in order to set themselves further apart from their northern neighbor. However, despite their history, Dragonsmaw in the modern day has a relatively positive trade-based relationship with Old Foxbury. When Old Foxbury first began to fund the creation of the Ocean Dome, Dragonsmaw suspected foul play along its eastern border and engaged in conflict with the new village state, however. Such disputes were quickly resolved when council members in both villages advised their leaders that more would be gained by sharing the resources and scientific knowledge. They now engage in peaceful. Some scientists from both villages have remote labs in their neighboring lands. As of writing, Dragonsmaw has not engaged in any official conflicts with Tiger Eye Peak or Quetzal Palace. Relations with Quetzal Palace, however, are known to be tense and unpredictable. Armed Forces. Dragon's Manor's military efforts are mostly dedicated towards defense and security, especially from its own formidable monster population. With more furs immigrating to Dragon's Maw and moving closer to the Hollowed Forest, it has in recent years become increasingly vital to maintain defense efforts along the southern border. Warriors are also tasked with patrolling swamps and graveyards where monsters are known to roam and pose a threat to residents. Dragon's Maw warriors also tend to look towards the sky, however. Despite there being a current state of peace between Dragon's Maw and Kessel Palace, there still exists a feeling of unrest about the highly malicious village state choosing to hover above them in particular more often than the other village states of Fervilla. Warriors in this village state are armed with shields and weapons made from salvaged monster parts, and a typical strategy is to get them before they get you. Among magic-using warriors, the element of darkness is the most commonly studied and harnessed for its destructive potential. Additionally, the military employs a large number of alchemists who specialize in formulating potent healing potions for warriors injured in battle. Chocolate candy corn is also commonly used for its restorative properties. Geography and distribution. The vast majority of Dragon's Maw residents live in the woodland hills of central Dragon's Maw. Fewer residents are found the closer you get to the Hollowed Forest, but some still choose to live there despite the environmental risks. Dragon's Maw houses are typically arranged with community in mind, and a central market area branches outwards towards neighborhoods that are interspersed with shops, schools, and other facilities. Festivities regularly draw residents living in the outskirts to these neighborhoods towards the center. Over time, some previously uninhabited areas of Dragon's Maw have been rendered desolate due to changing environmental conditions and natural disasters. Abandoned farms can be found there. The Hollowed Forest and Dragon's Breath Hot Springs. Though it is generally agreed that the entirety of the Hollowed Forest exists in Dragon's Maw Manor's domain, it is also regarded as the village state's natural border due to its foreboding and impassable nature. It is the habitat of dangerous monsters and feral werebeasts, as well as toxic and carnivorous plants. The presence of iron in the soil of the forest is so great that compasses begin to malfunction and can cause explorers to quickly become disoriented. One incredible discovery within the Hollowed Forest was made by a team of dedicated Wickerbeast explorers in 1990. As part of an ongoing effort to catalog endemic species of the forest, the team was carefully tracking their way when they encountered a natural hot springs where the water temperature reached 101 degrees Fahrenheit. Environmentalists delighted in this discovery, as it jump-started a movement towards sustainable, clean energy in Dragon's Maw. Geothermal energy has since been thoroughly harnessed by the village state, and new homes are automatically built with heat pumps. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Areas in the vicinity of the Dragon's Breath Hot Springs were also discovered to be mining hotspots for what is now a defining resource for Dragon's Maw, cinnabar. This mineral is very attractive to residents due to its blood-red coloration. Most modern structures, ceramics, and furniture are now made with cinnabar, so foreigners should be very cautious in handling them. The substance itself is toxic enough to harm furs who are not accustomed to poisonous materials such as Dragon's Maw natives are. Climate. Dragon's Maw is situated in a humid continental zone. Its summers are warm and wet with frequent rainstorms, and its winters are frigid but with scant snowfall. Summer temperatures average around 70 degrees Fahrenheit, and winter temperatures average around 25 degrees Fahrenheit. But temperatures as extreme as 100 in the summer and below zero in the winter have been reported. Dragon's Maw receives an average of around 40 inches of rain annually. The soil throughout Dragon's Maw is rich in iron oxide, giving it a reddish tint and making farming difficult without supplemental fertilization as its nutrients are easily exhausted. Herbalists typically do their work in greenhouses, which are very commonplace throughout Dragon's Maw. The Hollowed Forest is deciduous, but conifer trees in particular flourish in the northern parts of Dragon's Maw, hence the iconic native haunted pine. This nickname was recently given to the species by foreigners. Natives of Dragon's Maw, however, refer to this tree as the talking pine. Traditionally, it is believed that when walking past talking pine trees, you may hear the voices of your ancestors. Even tourists claim to witness this haunting experience, and to natives, it is very culturally personal. These trees hold a lot of significance to them, even to the point of building houses and other structures out of this haunted wood. Economy. Dragonsville Manor largely imports herbs and seeds due to the prevalence of medicinal and alchemical research being practiced by residential scientists and magicians. Fabrics and other material are also imported from neighboring villages due to the scarcity of the uncontaminated materials within Dragonsmaw. Dragonsmaw's greatest export by far is its lumber, satisfying many of Old Foxbury's and Oceandome's construction needs. Old Foxbury imports much of Dragonsmaw maple for their furniture, and Oceandome imports birch for their ships, especially during their annual local shipbuilding festival. Tiger Eye Peak is the largest buyer of Dragonsmaw's chocolate as well as other confections, and Mayor Polaria herself has personal ties with Dragonsmaw Manor. Trade exists with Quetzal Palace, but the relationship between the two village states is otherwise tense, though passive and neutral on paper. I need a drink of water. Hang on. I'm sorry. Education. Children of Dragonsmaw have many choices for early education, with schools and teachers prevalent throughout the village. Schooling is relatively easygoing, with emphasis on discovering through hands-on activity as well as students being able to choose their field of study. Most schools vary their class hours in order to accommodate nocturnal students. Attendance in secondary education is mandatory for teenage residents, and the graduation rate is among the highest in Fervilla. Dragonsmaw's higher education is renowned and rigorous. Dragonsmaw School of Medicine is the most competitive throughout Fervilla. The current mayor of Dragonsmaw Manor, Dr. Chester, is an esteemed alumni of this school who graduated at the top of his class. Science landmass also travel to Dragonsmaw in order to work in its labs, which are outfitted with some of the best cutting-edge equipment and are renovated constantly. One particularly noteworthy achievement from Dragonsmaw Labs is the continued advancement in the prosthetics market, including the development of eyes that are fully functional and inexpensive to produce. Culture. What sets Dragonsmaw's culture apart from other villages more so than anything else is perhaps their fascination with and embrace of death. It is viewed by natives not as an ending, but rather as a transformation. It is celebrated rather than feared. Their acknowledgement of the transformative nature of life fuels their resourcefulness and sustainability. Dragonsmaw has been able to recycle more monster parts and waste than any other village. Native blacksmiths and crafters have passed down the knowledge to create useful and potent equipment out of other ingredients as foul as slime and bones. Residents primarily feast on meat, but confectionaries are more common in Dragonsmaw Manor than any other village. Candy corn in both its original and chocolate flavoring is a staple found in every Dragonsmaw resident's pantry. The diet of these villagers is not by any stretch of the imagination healthy, but natives have adapted to tolerate and even thrive off of all aspects of their lives that foreigners would deem unsustainable. Most infamously, perhaps, is the undeniable love of pranks, drama, and social fun in Dragonsmaw culture. Dragonsmaw has a glittering nightlife. Residents love to stay up all nights of the week to play games, tell scary stories, and sell crafts in their stalls along the lantern-lit streets. Though the Great Harvest is the most famous festival, Dragonsmaw has many more smaller festivals throughout the year, weather permitting, as many as one per week. National symbols. The national flower is the iris. The national animal is the candy corn bat. Let me check the stream. Dragonsborp. I would watch you live stream sport shenanigans. I like sport shenanigans. Sport shenanigans. Yeah, between you and me, when I was reading that passage, I had to fight the urge in my body to say, and discourse. come to think of it, I am deeply ashamed of myself that I didn't put a reference to discourse in my own entry. Sure, dude, I can come to your live stream. I'm just gonna finish this drink of water because this is killing my throat. And then I'm gonna head into the final one, which is mine. And coincidentally, that one is the longest. Because I can't shut up. Okay. Think I'm doing okay. I'm gonna head into mine now. An extended brief overview of Dragismon. Dragismon Manor is a massive decentralized village-state whose territory occupies the southernmost region of the landmass of Fervilla. While Dragismon Manor originally only referred to its capital city, today it's more commonly used to describe the entire reach of the twisted forest that defines this nation's borders. The Dragismon Manor territory is about 200 kilometers wide and 350 kilometers long and is home to over 90,000 residents, with Ocean Dome to the east, Old Foxbury to the north, and uncharted territory to the west. Dragismon has had no shortage of border disputes over its lifetime and in only recent years has found lasting peace. Dragismon Manor residents are often very patriotic, in spite of stereotypes that they're slimy backstabbers. To them, Dragismon is the ultimate example of diversity in action. Demons, zombies, werewolves, vampires, mind-controlling parasites, and ghosts are just a portion of the population. Laws are very lax, and there is little regulation on the kinds of goods and services one can buy. This, paired with the high rates of social mobility and anti-monopoly laws, makes Dragismon Manor the most free nation by far. Not everyone sees this as a good thing. Dragismon is also seen as a chaotic wreck because of the lack of government regulation. High murder rate, inhumane scientific experimentation, and harmful cult influence are only a few of the issues Dragismon faces. This makes many villagers from other nations feel that Dragismon is unsafe and almost lawless. There is no official language of Dragismon because the government will not endorse any one language over the others. Most members of Dragismon are multilingual, though English is the most widely spoken language. Common secondary languages include Latin, Howl, Wind Whisper, and even a dialectal form of Whistle. Dragismon Manor is known for its high population of undead villagers, morbid sense of humor, fascination with tricks and treats, and general lack of government or regulation. The current mayor is Dr. Chester, and the ruling body of the nation is called the Dragismon Council. Its main exports are monster parts, fabrics, and candy, though it's also noted for being the only nation able to produce Wicker Beast potions. History and etymology of Dragismon. The origin of the capital, the Moonlit Curse, and the two revolutions. Dragismon Manor culture by far predates the current government. Native canine, hyena, bat, and Wicker Beast tribes are the oldest residents known, with the oldest surviving artifacts and cave paintings going back to prehistory. Since ancient times, there have been recordings of zombies, ghosts, lycanthropes, and others. Around the year 1400, disgruntled residents from Old Foxbury, mostly consisting of skunk, corvid, and raptor descent, migrated into the Twisted Forest looking to start their own towns, and began to get into skirmishes with several native tribes. Tensions started high, but after a massive dragon-like monster arrived out of seemingly nowhere, the natives and the hunters combined forces to slay the beast. They took the monster's bones and hide to create homes and walkways, and fashioned its head and teeth into an oppressive hall. They'd establish a mixed town in the very heart of the Twisted Woods. They named the town after the hall, and that was the beginning of the Dragismon Manor. The building of Dragonsmaw Manor proved that the land was rich in resources. Villagers flocked to Dragonsmaw seeking opportunity. Old Foxbury, ruled by a king at the time, felt entitled to the fruits of Dragonsmaw labor. By 1490, the king signed charters to remove the native tribes from Foxbury land. On October 17, 1497, on night with a full moon, the army invaded the capital village of Dragonsmaw, beginning what is now called the Moonlit Massacre. All the residents immediately rushed to the defense of their neighbors, and hundreds of unarmed innocents were slaughtered in cold blood as all the rebels were beaten back and forced out of the capital. It was, and remains, the singular loss of civilian life in all recorded for Villa history. The Foxbury army failed to account for the tenacity of the Dragonsmaw residents, both alive and dead. A curse was born out of the spilled blood, rippling through the entire forest. The surviving rebels regrouped with farmers around the outskirts of the capital, who in turn contacted tribes further out in the wood. A second wave of rebels was upon the army before it had a chance to properly call in reinforcements. The living wielded farm equipment such as scythes. Natives rushed in into the defense of their friends, and many of the restless dead were rising right up the bloody streets where they had fallen. The first mob of ghosts, zombies, lycanthropes, and scythe wielders had united. Within 2 weeks, the old Foxbury army was routed, either forced to retreat or killed, officially ending on October 31st. This was the first of 2 revolutions. The Moonlit Curse haunts Dragonsmaw to this day. Occurrences of lesser curses, hauntings, zombifications, and other related things are much more likely to happen in Dragonsmaw than any other nation. The high concentration of dark energy makes necromancy and summonings much easier to do. The entire Twisted Forest is subject to this curse, and rates of the aforementioned curses only return to normal levels past Dragonsmaw borders. Being cursed is not something that is mourned in Dragonsmaw, but is instead celebrated annually during the Great Harvest Festival. After the old Foxbury army was expunged, a few short but violent years followed. There was suddenly an entirely new group of undeads living among an already diverse population of hunters, farmers, and several distinct tribal cultures, and none of them could agree on a ruler. With no intermediate conflict and anti-Foxbury aggression running high, a reign of terror began where anarchy was supreme and public execution was a spectacle, lasting 10 years. Angry mobs would attack anyone who looked a little too Foxbury friendly. Leaders came and went in violent blazes of glory, and farmers began to have difficulty supplying food in the tumultuous times. Right when all seemed bleak, an emperor rose to power, establishing the Dark Dynasty. The dynasty lasted for about 300 years, between 1505 to 1801. The first 2 emperors worked to fix damage from the Foxbury invasion and made Dragonsmaw into an isolated nation for a few brief decades. This ended after a terrible famine where a blight wiped out the crops. Seeking more fertile land to provide food to the populace and fueled by a vendetta against the old Foxbury king, the emperors began an invasion that would set a precedent for many years to come. Whenever crops failed or a resource was lacked, Dragonsmaw would launch an attack on old Foxbury. The Dark Dynasty did not rule over long eras of peace and was known for being extremely difficult to negotiate with, preferring violence as a first option instead of a last resort. The constant threat of fighting stunted world growth because of reduced spending on non-war related activities, leading to this time period being known as the Dark Ages. Warmongering served them well for 300 years, but began to break apart around 1760 when the Dark Dynasty began to falter. Seeking oceanic resources, Dragonsmaw escalated conflict over borders into a full-blown war with Aqualis, the nation which would later be known as Oceandome. Combining their powers with Old Foxbury and receiving aid from Quetzal Palace, the 3 nations united against the Dark Dynasty, forcing it to become desperate. Unable to steal resources from a well-defended Foxbury and suffering from border invasions, the people once again began to starve. The nation's treasury started to run low, and the military wasn't properly paid. The army was being rapidly whittled down, so the emperor forced a draft which could take citizens as young as 10 years of age. On October 27, 1801, the military and the people revolted against the emperor, once again to defend themselves and their neighbors. The royal family scattered, but the emperor was killed in the process. The head general of the military took power and opened peace talks with the combined nations of Old Foxbury, Aqualis, and Quetzal Palace. That was the end of the Second Revolution. The head government and other executive members of the former dynasty devised a new system of government, soon to be known as the Dragonsmaw Council, established on June 6, 1806, and lasting to this very day. Dragonsmaw Manor's government is a representative democracy. All of Dragon's territory is drawn into regions, and based on the population of the region, there's a set number of individuals who will be sent to the Dragon's Council. These are voted on every 3 years. Every 4 years, a mayor is elected. Dragon's mayors have less power than the council, but act as a sort of leader to be the primary face of foreign relations, keeping the public informed, and object to or support legislation. Several candidates are nominated by the council, and then a direct vote from the citizens selects the mayor. Dr. Chester is actually a very progressive mayor in Dragon's Maw, advocating for stronger protections for victims of emotional abuse and supporting measures that increase education standards for all. In spite of the current council being a progressive one, Dragon's Manor is still well known for its issues. It has the highest murder and assault rate of all 5 nations. Because of how voting works and how dispersed settlements are, harmful cults can have an uncomfortable amount of influence on the council. Last of all, scientific experimentation can be unethical in Dragon's Maw so long as the patients sign away their rights or were created in the laboratory for the experiment. It is legal to create Frankenstein's monsters, test on villagers, and do gene splicing surgery. While this means that a lot of scientific advances come out of Dragon's Manor, it is done at a great ethical cost. Foreign relations. Because of their warmongering history, Dragon's Maw does not have many allies in other nations. Castle Palace is their main rival because of cultural differences, but their hatred for Castle Palace is their main rival because of cultural differences, but their hatred for Old Foxbury runs deep thanks to their history. In recent years, a ceasefire pact was signed between Foxbury and Dragon's Maw, and trade routes have been established between the two. Current relations between the two are neutral but friendly. Dragon's Maw Manor and Ocean Dome have lukewarm relations between them, but have important trade routes and frequently offer scientific aid to each other. Historically, they've had little contact with Tiger Eye Peak, but in recent years have forged a strong economic alliance based on the trade of fabric, material, and most importantly, chocolate. No nation would even consider a war pact with Old Dragon's Maw because of its warmongering nature in the past. Armed forces. In recent years, the Dragon's Maw Manor army has been considerably scaled back, but it was a powerful army for much of its history. Some undead generals have served for hundreds of years. The army has a whopping 10,000 standing troops, but is no longer well-funded, making it only the second strongest army on the continent. This army serves 2 purposes: to keep the wild monsters of the Twisted Woods at bay, and to act as a warning to its rival, Quetzal Palace, which obviously owns the strongest military of the 5 nations. Military service is seen as a noble thing for citizens to do, and the rewards for serving are superb. Because the army has been such an integral part of Dragon's Maw history, recent peace and lack of warfare has caused unrest in its ranks. The oldest generals think the younger generation are too soft and weak for wanting to negotiate trade routes, and long for the simpler days of pillaging villages and bullying Old Foxbury. Geography and distribution. Dragon's Maw Manor stretches through most of the south of the Furvilla landmass, occupying a dark forest known as the Twisted Woods. The nation's state building is the Dragon's Maw Manor, which is located in the city of Dragon's Maw Manor, which is the capital of the Dragon's Maw Manor Nation. This means if you wanted to send a letter to Dr. Chester, you would have to fill out the address as Dragon's Maw Manor, Dragon's Maw Manor, Dragon's Maw Manor. The capital city is in the southwest of the Dragon's Maw Nation, surrounded by woods and farmland, but the majority of the population lives in small settlements and lesser cities scattered around the Twisted Woods. The woods are thicker and more treacherous thanks to stronger monsters towards the east and south of the Twisted Woods. As a result, villager civilization is denser and more common towards the north and west portions of the map. Towards the southeast, there are many abandoned settlements where enterprising furries bit off more than they could chew and either died in monster attacks or had to flee to safety. The Twisted Woods. The Twisted Wood is a forest spanning through the southern part of the Furvilla landmass. It is surprisingly diverse for such a foreboding forest, home to hundreds of different kinds of trees, thousands of animal species, and well over a dozen families of monster types. A common joke about Dragon's Maw goes, "There's over 1 million things with its own unique way to kill you down there," which is painfully true. From angry plants that bite walks by them to spiders that can be ridden into battle to colorful beetles with stings that can kill a bovine villager, even the very environment of the Twisted Woods can be hostile. Dragon's Maw residents don't usually sympathize with conservation efforts. Members of the haunted tree species, which are quick to regrow, frequent monster attacks, and hostile mini-pet species, have made them very skeptical to the idea of a fragile ecosystem. They frequently develop the sentiment of either we're going to kill the environment or it's going to kill us. This has led to the extinction of several species, such as the don't bird and the thyla tiger, but political desire is still just not strong enough to fund a proper conservation movement as of now. Though the flora and the fauna adapted to this region are rich and flourishing, Dragon's soil is not particularly welcoming to outside species. Growing crops from other nations is particularly difficult and has been a consistent problem throughout Dragon's history. When native crops failed, Dragon's would invade other nations to feed the populace. As such, Dragon's puts a lot of significance on the harvest season and venerates farmers who discover intelligent ways to increase crop yields. The region is also noted for its high concentration of dark energy, which was abnormally high even before the Moonlit Curse took effect in 1497. This leads to strange effects such as increased rate of zombie reanimation, hauntings, and strangest of all, hallucinations that give the feeling of respawning after a death. Explorers can sometimes feel they've died while exploring, only to wake up safely in their beds with all their found materials. The Twisted Woods is dotted with large purple crystal clusters and gigantic black rock slabs called dark crystals and shadow stones that seem to be the source of this dark energy and creates the high concentration. These landmarks are as old as the Twisted Wood itself, and it is not known why the mysterious structures suddenly became so much more potent after the Moonlit Massacre. Despite being so important to Dragon's environment and culture, very little is known about them, and they are mostly respected and avoided, even by undead villagers. Climate. Dragon's is warm and humid for most of the year, and its lowest temperatures rarely go below freezing. Peak temperatures typically reach around 110 degrees Fahrenheit in the summer, and very rarely dip below 50 degrees in the lows of winter. Snow is very rare, and when it does fall, it's a celebratory occasion. Naturally, this causes Tigereye Peak residents to joke about how Dragon's greatest weakness is only 2 inches of snow. The weather is usually cloudy or rainy, so the stereotype of Dragon's Manor residents not being able to handle the sun is partially true when compared to how sunny a place like Old Foxbury is. With high rainfall and a warm temperature, the Twisted Woods is technically a temperate rainforest biome, which is why it's so surprisingly diverse when it comes to fauna and flora. Economy. Though its resource-rich environment also sees it exporting a wide assortment of goods, Dragon's Manor is known for 3 major industries: textiles, candy, and monster materials. Fabrics created from Dragon's spider silk are known to be some of the richest, most durable, and most luxurious materials on the market, and even the spider silk itself can command a high price for its use in crafting. While other nations would create diverse breeds of piggies, mini-moos, and basilisks for the livestock needs, Dragon's is home to over a dozen commercial breeds of specialized spider. The most valuable silks, however, are only found woven by wild spiders in the bowels of the Twisted Wood, towards the southeast border. Towards the southeast border. Tailors and textile workers weave these fabrics into long strips of haunted fabric. Then these strips are enchanted by alchemists into classic toothy scarves. Sorry. The most valuable of all these scarves are the eerie and spooky toothy scarves, made from the finest silks and enchanted by alchemists with many... Sorry. And enchanted by alchemists with... I'm sorry, that's the dumbest thing. Oh god. I don't know why I'm laughing at that. That wasn't funny at all. The most valuable of all these scarves are the eerie and spooky toothy scarves, made from the finest silks and enchanted by alchemists with many years of training. Textiles in Dragon's Maw are perhaps more than just an industry, even... Textiles in Dragon's Maw are perhaps... Damn it. I'm definitely going to need to do a second one of these streams later on, because there's just a big section of me having a giggle fit. Made from the finest silks and intended by alchemists for many years of training, textiles in Dragon's Maw are perhaps more than just an industry, even being considered by some to be an art. Candy and other desserts are also staples of Dragon's Maw exports, as Dragon's Maw has the best environment for growing sugarcane. Candy corn is the most widely known example for cooking and weapon crafting, and crates of it are regularly purchased in droves and shipped off to an unknown location. Rumor has it that it's secretly being stored in a high-security vault just in case of an apocalypse, but of course that's just a rumor. Tiramisu is a delicacy originating in Dragon's Maw Manor and is famous for its popularity among connoisseurs. Of course, Dragon's Maw is also known for its fearsome monsters. The hunting... No, it's coming back. No, I don't want to laugh right now. So sorry, please forgive me. This is supposed to be a live stream, sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh my god, I don't know what's causing that. Of course, Dragon's Maw is also known for its fearsome monsters. The hunting and butchering of these beasts is another major source of revenue for the nation. The lips, tongue, and teeth of these monsters, sold under the common name of Monster Tooth, as well as claws and hand sinews sold under the name Monster Claw, are particularly important for crafting. Bones and meat are also sold from the monsters, usually for use in gourmet foods such as torn cheese steak. I'm gonna have to check the live stream, the chat right now, to see if anybody's killing me. I'm so sorry. I called it a boater, and it sounded like boner, and I'm so sorry. Okay, I think it's dead now. I think the giggles are dead. Okay. Education and politics. Social programs vary wildly in quality depending on... No! No, I don't want to laugh. Education and politics. Social programs vary wildly in quality depending on region in Dragon's Maw, including schools. Most schools near the capital are prestigious with high education standards and graduation rates, while most schools further from the capital have an alarming difference in quality. Since most members of Dragon's Maw live in settlements away from the capital, homeschooling or sending children to boarding schools are two popular options. Schooling is currently a hot political issue in Dragon's Maw Manor, and the issue is very complicated because of how widely distributed settlements are. In fact, many issues are complicated because of how widely distributed settlements are. Because many physical programs, like hospitals, police departments, and other government offices, are simply impossible to put in every settlement. Worse than that, settlements are so diverse that it becomes a mess to please everyone. Traditional werewolf clans don't like accepting government help, but witch covens are usually very supportive of it. Do ghosts have rights to the places they haunt, even if the land was a graveyard or family visit? Does a sentient body parasite have a right to live? Should you force zombies to have treatments to prevent the spread of their disease? How would any of this be enforced? As a result, most settlements are left to their own devices and villagers vote with their feet. If they don't like how a settlement is run, they simply move elsewhere. The Dragon's Maw government is seen as less of a decision center and more of a fairness enforcer, whose main purpose is to stop unfair advantages and protect the freedoms of Dragon's Maw citizens by killing monopolies, stopping settlements that keep residents captive, and killing monsters and particularly dangerous criminals. Culture. A dark sense of humor is a common trait in Dragon's Maw. Death is ever present in the lives of residents, be it permanent death or undeath, and not even ghosts last forever. They don't avoid speaking about it, and a sense of humor revolving the subject is a way of coping with it and claiming their mortality. Ancestors are honored and remembered, and residents use the fact that they will permanently die one day to live their lives to the fullest while it lasts. Death is something to be feared and locked away, but something to be spoken about and tamed. Dragonsmaw Manor residents find personal responsibility and intelligence very important, which is a reason why legislation to help citizens can often be difficult to pass. When people are swindled by con artists or scammed, it's often seen as the victim's fault for being too gullible. Or when contracts are signed with bad employers or evil demons, it's seen as the signee's fault for not reading the fine text. On the flip side, this also makes vigilante justice quite common, as residents feel it's their job to regulate their own communities, not the government's. Science is highly valued, sometimes to the detriment of villager rights. Scientists are allowed to perform inhumane experiments as long as the subject was created in a lab for the experiment, or the adult subject signs an agreement of their own free will, free from any hypnosis or physical coercion. Such mad scientists will often prey on weakness, promising great wealth, power, or eternal life to potential subjects, and they're allowed to tell half-truths as long as there is no outright lie. Visiting villagers are advised to never sign any text-filled documents while in Dragonsmaw, especially not if they're asked to sign in blood or with sinister-looking pens. As a multicultural society, there are varying traditions from settlement to settlement. Lycanthrope tribes have full moon celebrations where the night is filled with howling songs, demons have group magic sessions, and beast summoning competitions. Skeletons create puzzles to get acquainted with one another and pass the time. Many settlements have a mixture of several subcultures, making every town truly unique. The traditions they all share tend to be based off of agriculture. Dragonsmaw celebrates 4 major holidays. The seed sowing, held in spring, is dedicated to meeting new people, understanding new things, and beginning new chapters in one's life, represented by planting seeds in the field which will one day bear crops. The rain calling, held in summer, is a holiday about maintenance and nurturing, and is dedicated to maintaining relationships, cleaning the house, and stopping bad habits in honor of the struggle of tending a field. The winter respite, held in winter of course, is a holiday about bonding with family and remembering family that is permanently dead. These are all usually overshadowed by the festivals of other nations, but are respected and observed by Dragonsmaw residents, and school is usually on break around these times. The largest celebration, and the best known, is the Great Harvest. Held in fall, this celebration honors the birth of Dragonsmaw Manor as a nation and celebrates the moonlit curse that allows so many ghosts and zombies to keep living. Smashing pumpkins is symbolic of the revolutions that tore down old orders, and giving pumpkins is symbolic of the new life that the curse gave to many residents. Candy only entered the event in later years, simply because candy became a favorite part of Dragonsmaw diets. Candy is distributed by candy fairies, which are typically just anonymous loved ones, or the mayor. Though Dragonsmaw's diet consists mostly of crops such as pumpkins, mouth beans, cauliflower, or angry root, Dragonsmaw residents have a large amount of meat in their diets. One dish includes pot plants and stuffing them full of chopped meat and spices, referred to as stuffed pottery. Thanks in part to their morbid sense of humor, Dragonsmaw also enjoys different dishes that make other nations squeamish, like toad legs and salted slugs. Of course, they also consume a lot of sweets and pastries such as candy corn, cakes, and chocolate-covered spiders. Dragonsmaw has several unique languages that are rare outside of its borders. Howl is a traditional language spoken by canine and lycanthrope tribes, while Latin is an archaic language still kept alive by the oldest undead residents. Some Dragonsmaw villagers have a hard time speaking regular languages because of physical difficulties, such as certain ghosts and fish-lipped lagoon monsters. Wind Whisper is spoken by all manner of spirits, ghouls, poltergeists, and ghosts when they can't make other verbal sounds, and Swamp Whistle is a unique dialect of whistle spoken by lake and marsh dwellers, both on land and underwater. In terms of music, the fiddle is a beloved instrument in Dragonsmaw Manor, especially among demons, and is just a little more popular than the piano and the organ. Previously mentioned howl songs are loved even outside of lycanthrope tribes. Skeletons have a unique style of music accented by the rattling of their bones, and being able to harmonize and sing with others is an attractive trait. The mixing of many different subcultures and music styles gives Dragonsmaw music a very distinct spooky vibe that makes it easily recognizable to outsiders. Many sports in Dragonsmaw would require a written will and a waiver in other nations. One popular competition occurs during the spring and is called spider jumping. A large spider cow creature called an Ushioni is brought into an arena, and a team of professionals will goad the creature into charging at them so they can skillfully dodge and jump over it. Several formal fighting sports are also popular, such as fencing and boxing. Of course, since Dragon's Maw is so diverse, there are many sports that revolve around ghosts, zombies, and other groups with special talents. Possession games are a class of sports where ghosts will show off their talent in possession by possessing resistant targets or animals. Cheerdeading is a sport where zombies and skeletons perform circus-like acrobatic tricks while detaching their own limbs and heads for more complex maneuvers. Chess is recognized as a sport in Dragon's Maw and is played by several popular members of the council, including Dr. Chester himself. The most popular sport among the citizens is baseball, and this sport is also closely tied to the Dragon's Maw revolutions. This is because the Bat-Bat mini-pet is strong enough to be used as both a baseball bat and a weapon. And the barbed wire Bat-Bat was a weapon of choice for poor revolutionaries in a hurry to overthrow the government. Playing baseball right outside a government office can actually get a resident charged with harassment. National symbols. Current national plant is the pumpkin because of its cultural significance in agriculture, folklore, and jack-o'-lantern carving. Legend has it that the Dragon's Maw dragon monster hatched from a gigantic pumpkin, starting the event that brought all of the subcultures together for the first time. The current national animal is the Critty, an animal known for its intelligence, trickster nature, and loyalty to their clans and owners. During the Dark Dynasty region, the national animal was a barbed wire Bat-Bat because these animals doubled as weapons against the old Foxberry army, and the national plant was the Deadbow for its hardiness and adaptability. Don't boner scarves. I said boner scarves. And that was the 3 entries, and my throat is sore. Mine alone was 9 pages, so I like to punish my voice. And that was the 3 entries, and you can tune in again on Tuesday, when I do it all again, and die. Just like a true Dragon's Maw resident. They do, actually. All of them have really good, unique qualities to them. Which is, like, there's some things that I really wish that I had, like, thought about. You know, also, welcome, Lance. Like, you know, like, I hear that from, I listen to a lot of speakers on YouTube, because I just like hearing people talk. And they always have, like, a bottle of water next to them, so I knew about that, so that's why I made sure I had water next to me, but... I don't have your Discord, Kevin. You need to give me your Discord so you can link me shit. Also, Lance, when did you get in here? What I really like in Laz's lore, I really love that Cinnabar stuff. I really wish I had thought of that myself. That is a really interesting idea. Alrighty, so I'm gonna end the stream now. Thank you all for showing up and coming and watching me shout about Furvilla. If you want to catch this again, I'll be doing the exact same thing on Tuesday when